Ooh. Let's see. We should be going live here. There we are. Now we're live. Oh my goodness. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Boss Rush, which is we need a little screaming in there. Hello everyone. Welcome to Boss Rush. This is the weekly live stream. We dissect and discuss the biggest game industry news of the week. My name is Chris Melisinos. I'm the principal evangelist for the video games industry here at AWS. And joining me this week is
Dean Takahashi. I'm the lead writer for GameSpeed Adventure Beat.
Awesome. And
hey, I'm Mark Delora. I'm a founder of an ed tech company called Level Up Games and longtime game industry guy.
Longtime industry with a new background, I see.
Yeah, which is a big mess. So, we're getting there.
Awesome. And we're also going to have with us Susan Cummings, our other co-host. She is going to be joining us just a little bit later today. She had a meeting that moved, so business first. But yeah, it's so lovely to see you guys. And yeah. Just running into the studio here to get stuff done, and there's been so much news this week that was caught me by surprise a little bit. So I'm super eager to jump into that. Like, where do we want to start? My goodness.
I think we have to start with the biggest stuff, maybe. Huh?
Yeah, well, the big stuff is always good. Of course, always, if you all are watching, whether you're on LinkedIn or YouTube, make sure you go ahead and pop in any comments that you have. We're going to be monitoring the chat throughout this. I think, Mark, you're on LinkedIn. I'll be, or vice versa. I've got both of them up and running, but if you can help me manage one of the two,
sure,
that would be awesome. All right, Dean.
Yeah.
Lead us off, buddy.
You know, it was a tough day yesterday on National Video Game Day in the United States.
Yes.
Microsoft announced it was laying off 650 more staff from the Xbox gaming division, and this was on top of 1,900 earlier let go in the wake of the acquisition, $68.7 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
So you know, well over 2,500 layoffs now that have happened since that acquisition, and it was very tough. You know, like I like to always think that we have this narrative of progress in the industry, right? But here we're stuck. We're stuck in a cycle of layoffs that's been going on since for 30 months or so now, and
right.
It's very, very hard to watch and very difficult for everybody in the industry. And very sorry to see something this big happen again, which feels like so late in the cycle as it felt like the industry was recovering.
Mm-hmm.
And again, not great news. Annapurna also had something similar announced yesterday, where it was the entire staff, 25 people from Annapurna Interactive, resigned or announced their resignations yesterday after they failed to achieve an agreement with the parent company over spinning out the indie games label.
Yeah.
From Annapurna.
Well, actually, maybe we should dissect the Microsoft one a little bit because the Annapurna one is a little. It's
very different.
Yeah, and it's also a bit confusing. Like when I first read it, I was like, I don't know what I'm reading here yet. Like the way it came out, it was very odd. So I think, Mark, any comments or thoughts about the Microsoft layoffs? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm just sad. I mean, the framing of it I thought was a little frustrating too. I always feel for people who feel like they need to do these big layoffs, as well as for all the people who are getting laid off. Like, nobody is happy in a situation like this. But I'd heard a little bit about it beforehand, that it was coming, but I didn't quite know what the timeline was going to be, and that there were some pretty strong people who were going to be shown the door. Mm-hmm. So it's just frustrating. But I mean, I just think this is what people have to expect at this time. But whenever there's an acquisition of that size, one of the reasons for an acquisition is to get cost of scale.
Right.
Cost of scale mean you're going to let people go. So
Mhm.
it's not a surprise from that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in my career, I've been part of a restructuring, but before, and you always go into those or, oh, it's going to be great. There's going to be all these synergies. Everything's going to line up. Synergies, right? Terrible. My apologies. I didn't mean to say something as dumb as synergies. But the reality in those situations is that redundancies happen, and organizations, they have to go through some of that, and it's terrible when a single person is let go, let alone 650 more. And Dean, to your point too, of just when you feel like you've got your footing, the sands shift again, right? As an industry, so
Yeah, that's a key point is shifting sands, right? And that I think when this started as an acquisition, it was 2022, right? And the whole problem back then was a talent shortage, right? And there were just not enough people to hire. And Activision Blizzard, their CEO Bobby Kotick said that the reason they did this deal was that they couldn't hire enough people for AI purposes. This was before the generative AI boom, and so they needed these people, and they couldn't find them anywhere. And so they agreed to this because Microsoft had so many of those people that they could use to sort of enhance all of the existing Activision Blizzard teams. And so it was a period of expansion that was happening when they conceived this deal, and it was likely that if that continued, then they would not have had to cut so many jobs, right? They would have needed every person that they had to go to work on all these different things, or at least change the mix a bit so that they could add in a lot of these AI people. And then what turns out that the deal takes 2 years to get done, as it's held up in the regulatory process, and then the environment totally changes to one of we got to cut our costs along with the rest of the industry, and game sales kind of tank, right? And so, yeah, it's all about shifting sands, as you said.
That's Dean, I just have to say how wonderful it is for all of us to have you be in our industry reporting on this for such a long period of time, because that analysis is not something I've heard anywhere else. That just sounds right on the money. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Things shifted between the time they wanted to buy the company and now. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So,
and I think I have been saying though that the stands were shifting in a positive way up until this week, and Amir Satvat had been predicting that in the second half the layoffs in the industry would slow down, and that there would be more hiring than firing. But it feels like it's going to be a bumpy road still, getting to that.
Yeah.
Better job
the only caveat that I would add to, so yes, I agree. But the only caveat I would add to that is that this doesn't feel like an industry layoff, right? This is an acquisition. Like this is, rolling through a large scale acquisition. If it didn't happen in the games industry, it happened in another industry, you'd be seeing the same type of thing, right? So I think, indications are still good, right? The trend line is still good, or softening from where it was with regard to, Amir's information. But what I would say to those listening is, again, this is, terrible for colleagues, and I hope soft landings for all, and that they're able to, stay in the industry and continue to find that work. But this one just feels a little different than the trends we've been seeing, right, in games.
Yeah, if there is anything positive here, they did not eliminate more games, and they did not eliminate more studios. They are cutting back in the sort of corporate and support layers. That businesses have.
Yeah, as always, it's like a message that works really well for the gamers and for anybody in the game industry. Is probably like, wait, those are all the people who we work with that make Xbox work. Why would you let those people go? It's tough choices.
Yeah.
I mean, they still didn't really indicate how many people they have in games. I mean, that's a question I've wanted to know for a while. It's one of my complaints about lack of transparency.
Yeah, and the way they report out.
But I do believe they have a lot more people than Sony now, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, Stephen Totillo, he's a very good journalist. He showed a chart of jobs in the entertainment division of Sony, and it's gone down over the years, and kind of very revealing that it was around 46,000, and it's somewhere in the 38,000 realm now, and so pretty dramatic shrinkage in that division, which includes PlayStation, but also quite a few other things. So it's again not very transparent, but that's maybe an indicator of where the biggest game companies are going in terms of employment.
Yeah. I mean, JP Isham in the chat here said, imagine what happens if GTA 6 isn't the blockbuster delivery we expect. No one has spent $2 billion, so a truly tremendous bet that could yield another 2 decades of dominance. But if it doesn't sell 20 million copies, and immediately suspect we see garbage about it failing, right? Which is also something that I think this was part of this was the same type of sentiment that we saw with the game that Sony just canceled after 2 weeks in market, right? It's like if it didn't meet a certain threshold immediately, then it must be a failure and kind of move on. Now I don't know if that's the case, right? I don't work there and I'm not in those discussions, but it's
Yeah, it was disappointing to see that game get made over 8 years. They transferred from probably Monsters into Sony itself, and then um, shut it down after 11 days or so.
Yeah. So, well,
didn't get traction. Yeah.
Well, when we're talking about these layoffs to a company actually not laying themselves off, but moving out, you were bringing up Annapurna Interactive. And while a fan of the games that they've done over the years, I really didn't know a whole lot about the structure of the company and everything. So I'd been digging into that over the past 24 hours to understand how all of that comes together. And so the story is a bit clearer for me. But Dean, Mark, maybe you guys want to go ahead and talk a bit about what happened there and kind of the news that's coming out.
I think my interpretation is that Annapurna at the highest level saw what was happening in the rest of the industry and how a lot of other companies were giving up on the indie space. Private division has scaled back at Take-Two, right? And that structure is fairly similar to what Annapurna has with its movie studio and entertainment businesses, and this interactive Annapurna Interactive division was a label dedicated to indies, right? And I believe so. So what we know, as far as what they've confirmed, is that they were in negotiations to spin this off as a separate company, and those negotiations failed for some reason, and so the staff, all 25 of them, voluntarily resigned as a result. And then Annapurna said, we're sorry to see this happen, but we will fulfill our contracts as a publisher and continue with hiring people for the game division. Now they, I guess with 12,000 layoffs in the industry, they feel like they can hire another 25 people. But what I think was happening was Annapurna Pictures probably wanted to pursue. This is speculation. This is where we go into speculation.
Sure.
That they wanted AAA, and they wanted to shift so that they get a transmedia benefit from their movies that are coming out and the games that they're launching. And so that instead of doing all indie titles where there's no relationship between the indie games that are being created and the movies they're making, instead they want something. And this may be the reflection of how well some of the game properties have started to do as movies now, right? And so like somehow they're eyeing that as a strategic priority, and then looking at indie games and deciding that's not helping us get there, right? So I think that's possibly what the conflict is here, but that's a guess.
Yeah, it feels, and again, as you point out, this is speculation, and that is exactly what you're going to get when you listen to us talk, right? We don't work for these companies, so we're on the outside looking in. We get the news too and frame it against what we do know about the industry. But, here, the thing that always confused me is, do you want AAA games or do you want AAA audiences, right? Because a AAA audience can do extremely well with an independent game. And there's an opportunity to turn some of those independent games into awesome, AAA movies, right? And so it still feels like there's that Hollywood to game friction in there of, well, if I don't have the AAA game, I'm not going to be able to do a AAA movie, and that's going to drive that forward. It's like, no, look at the numbers of people playing. Look at the interaction of people within those communities. Make decisions based on engagement, not just the dollars that the game may have brought in, right?
Also, like you're right in this sense that Annapurna Pictures makes different kinds of movies, right? They're not like the sort of other Ellison company, the Skydance, which is making Terminator movies, right? They're making Zero Dark 30 and Her, and these almost indie films or auteur films that are kind of a good fit in that way with some of the content. And so like Xavier Nelson Jr.'s company, Strange Scaffold, they recently did a deal to get a movie made based on El Paso Elsewhere, one of their indie games, right? And so it is possible to take these indie titles and move them into indie pictures, right?
Yeah.
And so I think maybe that's an opportunity Annapurna could have pursued more. Annapurna, just in August, did announce that Annapurna Pictures was teaming up with Remedy to take Control 2, content into the film and TV space, right? And so Alan Wake as well, and that's perfect sort of fit in some ways.
Yeah.
What you want to do with a game property, I think, and their games were so cinematic that it just makes a lot of sense. But and then Remedy pointed out today or last night that this deal is still in effect because their deal is with Annapurna Pictures and not with Annapurna Interactive.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't 12 minutes feel like it's ripe for some sort of choose your own adventure style games that or movie shows that Netflix was doing too? Like that's like the perfect property for that type of an experience.
Yeah. I don't know what's been going on inside, but it feels like, again, a wish for more transparency. But feels like somebody changed their plans.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing to note in this story for the teams that were building games is that Annapurna Interactive stated that the games are still going to continue to be made and pushed, so no projects are being canceled. How they staff those and how they're driven forward, that remains to be seen. But for right now, they're dealing with, again, these shifting sands, right? So, yeah.
There is even more weird news happening than Annapurna. Yesterday on Twitter, a sort of brand new account announced that Flappy Bird was going to return.
Yes,
a mobile game into the stores, and it was more than 10 years ago that this quirky game was a massive hit, viral hit, because it was pretty difficult, to get your bird to fly between these different obstacles, right? And it just took off like crazy because everybody was complaining about how hard it was, right? And then Fong Nguyen, the creator, looked at all this feedback and decided, you know what, um, I'm not feeling good about this game because people are so addicted to it, and
Right.
I don't want them to actually be addicted to it. And he's a solo developer from Vietnam, and he pulled it off the market, and was making like 50,000 bucks a day.
Yeah, that's exact. That was what I was going to say. I remember 50 grand a day, and he walked away from it. Right.
Yeah, and then started thinking about, I guess, what to do, and he has not come up with any different Flappy Bird branded game. And then and so, like, what looks like what happened is that this Flappy Bird Foundation group formed itself from a game tech company, and then waited for the trademark to expire. And because it was pulled off the market, and the trademark reached, I don't know what it is, 10 years maybe, and they probably didn't renew their application, they seized it, and they took it over. They filed their own trademark for Flappy Bird, and now are making their own Flappy Bird game, and they're under different ownership, just taking it into the market.
They didn't
So,
make it distinct by calling it Floppy Bird. So they could say, no, this isn't Flappy Bird. Also, yes, yeah. Oh, yeah, the Flappy Bird Association. Oh, yeah, the FBFA or whatever.
yeah. So this is a very weird development. There's no indication that the original founder is involved in any way.
Right.
Based on his previous behavior, I would guess that he's not involved.
That's a little terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, stranger things,
But it shows the power. I mean, look, it shows the power of community. And when people want to do stuff, they will find a way to go ahead and get it done, right? And, when you mentioned Flappy Birds, and of course, I thought about this when I saw the original article, was there's this YouTuber, I forget his name, but I'll go ahead and try to find it and post it in the show description. He did this thing. It's like anything can be a game engine. He does this series. And so he actually used, Flappy Bird as the example and tried a whole bunch of different things. And then he made a Flappy Bird game in Excel using like interaction between the cells. And it would literally paint, you watch it paint each cell, and you could literally play Flappy Bird, but in an Excel spreadsheet. Like, I love crazy, wacky, sort of things like that, which then reminded me of another article that you all posted about Doom. This one was also just a wacky one for me. I don't know if you...
Well, yeah, I guess there's a engine out there called Free Doom that
I'll pop this one up in the browser for everyone.
It's like an open engine for anybody to use, and so you can make Doom games using this engine. And these folks are taking Doom into the blockchain space, I'm trying to remember what their name is, but it's going on to Ethereum through the Cartesi blockchain,
right?
And it's very interesting that Doom essentially is getting ported to everything. Like it's getting, all kinds of devices and things that it was never intended to be on. But this company is called Rives, Rives, and they're doing a RISC-V verifiable entertainment system, sort of like an on-chain gaming console, they call it.
Okay.
We'll see what the actual result is, but they're doing like starting with a Doom Olympics tournament, starting on September 12th here, or yesterday, I guess, right? And so they they're doing this without any kind of deal with Bethesda, which is the owner of id and the owner of Doom. And I would guess because of the early behavior of id Software in allowing a lot of these things to sort of get off the ground through modding. So they had very permissive sort of views of Doom, so that just about anybody could make Doom stuff.
Well, in the video that is on the GamesBeat site, which you can head over to venturebeat.com/games to read all of this awesome game news, they showed these little cartridges. And Mark, it reminded me of the Pico 8 cartridges, images, right? That you could use. And then what it basically is saying here is you were going to play it in a browser, a console built on Cartesian, just like you were saying. And then it's after the fact, after the gameplay session is done, you then upload it, that gameplay session, right, to their system. And then it's basically just recording, minting onto the chain all the moves that were made, right? Here's my question. What happened? It says players generate verified gameplay tapes while builders design the game cartridges. It's a blend of gaming and blockchain technology, so on and so forth. The question is, what happens when somebody on the client side uses a man in the middle or a bot to play the game, and then they're just uploading that there, and there's no way to prove that it was cheated because now it's just minting those. You can't change it once it's on chain, right? So even if you went back and discovered that it was an exploit, you can't remove it from the blockchain. So, right, the whole point of this was to make sure that every action is completely verifiable. So we just don't have enough information yet. I would love to understand more about the security model that they're going to use around this to prove that it was done by a human and there was no exploitation.
They've also figured out some kind of way around the gas fees that you would generate by doing so much onto the blockchain, right? If you're putting the entire record of every move in the game onto the blockchain, that's and you're not just sort of uploading the results of the game, then that is I guess a way to verify that the game was played. But yeah, like you said, there's that, and then there's the gas fees problem, I guess, that they have to figure out or get around, because it is on Ethereum, and those fees are substantial.
Yeah, JP also said in the chat, I could see the speedrun community taking a challenge to beat a bot. But again, my brain, I'm like, yeah, but do we need to have it on blockchain to do that? So again, it remains to be seen. I love these experiments that are going with the tech, and we'll see where it takes us. So, Mark, any thoughts about that, or? There's Mark's brain right now.
I heard Doom and I was thinking of a completely different story, and then he said blockchain, and I think I was thinking about no, I was thinking about the PlayStation 5 Pro. That's what I was
thinking. Let's talk about that. And the fact that also Astrobot just launched too, which
my God.
Oh yeah, Astrobot. Really popular,
that also gets it. Yes, Astrobot is so freaking good. It is a system seller. I think the quality. It is a system seller level game.
Whoa, it's a wild Susan.
Yay, Susan has joined us. We're going to go ahead and bring Susan in here as well. So hang on, gang. Keep going.
Yeah, well, you know what? I get excited to see Mark Cerny come out and talk about some of the details on what's, inside the chassis. Every time Sony talks about some new hardware, we get a little bit of extra insight into it from Mark, and I always really appreciate that. It's not just an announcement. It's like, okay, let me tell you a little bit about what we did, like some respect to the developer community. That made me happy. Yeah, it was nice to see. The part about the using the I forget the way that they put it, but basically they've got some NPU style hardware in there. I don't know if it's dedicated or just bolted on the GPU or what, but to do super sampling was interesting to hear. It seemed like the right move.
And we have Susan Cummings has now joined the. Hey, Susan.
Hey. I'm sorry, I'm such a stranger lately.
No, you're perfectly fine. We're happy to have you. So yes, we were just talking about the PlayStation, the PS5 Pro, and
Yeah.
talking about Mark Cerny coming out to dress everybody, which it does have a feel good quality to that, to see him up there doing it. But about the
It
announcement,
feels like so long, could I say, since the PlayStation came out. I had to remind myself it was only a few years ago.
yeah,
I tripped myself up. I was thinking it's been like 6 years. And it's like, God, it really hasn't been that long.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it hasn't been that
Yeah.
long since availability has been
You're right. Absolutely.
available for people.
Yeah. We got lucky. We managed to get like the first batch. Like I think we had 3 of us trying to, get onto the list that morning when they went on sale.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, we had a group chat with the Death by Consensus group that I had started, and people were like, "Oh, we found a PS5 here, and I picked one up. Does anybody need one?" So people were trying to help each other get
that's awesome.
get consoles and Switch
awesome.
OLEDs and all that stuff. Xbox Series X. But
So do we need it? Like I haven't really fully digested the specs. Is it worth the upgrade? Like what's the consensus?
Well, it is. The price was quite something that caught everybody's attention.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
They're launching it at $700, right? So, yikes! That's it's more
I guess
than the PlayStation 3 price was, where they couldn't get it off the ground at $600.
yeah, but not more than 3DO back in the day. I'll tell you that. But yeah, no, it is an expensive piece of kit.
Cheaper than an iPhone.
I think it wasn't 3DO about $700.
Yeah, but that was $700 in like 1993. It's like $2,000 today.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. So I think a lot of people were having that reaction. It's like,
Yeah.
$700.
Yeah.
It's funny, right? Like a high-end phone costs more than that. An iPhone,
the iPhone 16,
high-end
for example,
Samsung.
Yeah.
And somehow we put up with that. So
Yeah, you just want somebody to subsidize it for you, though, the way somebody might with an iPhone, right?
Yeah, and as Michael in chat just said, $700 is like 2 really awesome tattoos. So, yeah. Here's the thing for me is I don't know if I use my PS5 and it's great, but I don't know if it is enough of a jump to make me go, all right, I want to get I want to go to the next one. And the one thing that's really got me there is no physical drive connected to it. Right? You have to go buy that as an add-on to it.
Cool.
What's that? No.
I haven't used the drive in my console for like 10 years.
Yeah, but what I like though is that I have the option of using it if I choose to. That is what I'm about, right? I use it very infrequently, and it's also a pain in the ass when you're like, oh, I want to play this game, but oh yeah, I got to put a disc in. Okay. So I get all of that, but I also use mine for 4K Blu-rays because it's still the best way to watch like the best movies you want if you have the right equipment. But it's that optionality that makes me go, okay. And the fact that you have to register the drive online to even unlock it to make it work. Now, I know that's got to be a licensing issue around all of the codecs and stuff that, the drive can read, but I don't know.
I guess that's it. Just doubles things to have the price come up and then lose the drive, right?
Yes. Yeah, especially when the original at that price or a little less included it.
Yeah, I can get that. I do wonder about the economics when I think about why you would launch like a Pro, like an upgraded, or like an X version of Xbox or whatever, where you put it at a price point. Because we always used to talk about the console companies I've worked at, when you launch initially, the price point doesn't particularly matter at launch because you're going to get the early adopters and they're going to pay kind of what they need to pay for the first X number of units. Right. I wonder about when you do a mid-cycle upgrade launch, if that's the same kind of thinking, that the people who are going to buy that are like really that same group of people and they're willing to
min-maxers.
Yeah, traditionally the spread. The price has never been this high for a mid-cycle, right?
Yeah. It's high. I'm interested in it. I'm looking at it. I probably won't buy it.
Yeah.
But
unless our PlayStation breaks.
Yeah,
exactly.
Think, it is possible that they could, take this price down closer to where the costs are, right? Like right now, it is priced, I think, for the early adopters. But if they do that, then they get the complaints coming in. Like,
Yeah, of course.
Why did that? Why was it 3 months ago I paid $700 for this, and now it's $500? Like, will you give me my $200 back?
Yeah.
Right? and Sony's gonna say, nope, you're not gonna get it back.
Right. There's only one company at one time that did it right, and that was Nintendo with the 3DS, right? And when they went to the newer 3DS, and then they brought the price down, they said, okay, for everybody that went ahead and bought this new version, we're going to give you like 15 games that you can only get if you had bought it during that window.
Oh, I don't remember that. That's
yes,
cool.
It was called the Ambassadors Club, and it was a port of like a bunch of Game Boy Advance games that they took off the marketplace, and they made versions that were only available to people that did that. And I was one of them. And it made you go, well, I spent that extra money, but okay, but now I got something nobody else has. I'm cool. Like nobody.
This is why
nobody talked
Nintendo
about
always rules, right? Because only Nintendo does stuff like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, the fact that Nintendo Switch cartridges have a bittering agent in the plastic, right? You know about this, right?
Yeah.
So if you taste a Nintendo Switch cartridge, you'll spit it right out of your mouth because it has a bittering agent in the plastic that is disgusting. And they said they did this because Nintendo, and for families, and they have these little kids, if they put it in their mouth, which they could swallow, they'll spit it out immediately. So they really think very deeply about the people that are using their platforms, not just the platform. Yeah. Go look it up online. There, right when it came out and that was discovered, there's a bunch of live streams of people going, "Okay, let me go." Trying to spit it out.
My Xbox controller now.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. Just don't start. Yeah, let's see. What does this taste like?
You got a new YouTube channel.
Exactly. Yes. Let's look
Chris
at Dreamcast
hardware.
controller.
What will Chris lick today?
That's right.
Will it lick?
I mean, I do think that one reason for doing this is that desire for the big company to amortize its R&D over a longer period of time, right? And when it Microsoft had a total disaster when the original Xbox only lasted 4 years, right? And they lost $4 billion, right? If it had been designed to last for 10 years and it actually sold for that period of time, then it actually would have they would have narrowed that loss gap quite dramatically. And in this case, these days everybody kind of wants their console to last for 10 years.
Right.
They can keep selling it for that time, even if maybe they do introduce a new one along the way. And these midlife kickers, like the PS5 Pro, are meant to get them there, right? And so they're throwing a bit more into the machine, but it's still basically the same machine with very similar costs, or costs that have been cost reduced for 4 years already. And so if you can make it last for that 10 years instead of 5, that the economics are so much more attractive to that company. And I think that's what they're going for here. And that this is sort of the stopgap measure of just in case demand starts to sink for the original, we're here with a brand new version that is going to keep this thing alive for some more years. And this is going to buy us more years to make it to the next cycle, but also design a better machine for the next cycle, because now we have more time for technology to evolve, and we can load this next machine up with much better stuff rather than like a 5-year machine, which maybe things might not have changed that much, and people can go, what's the difference between the PS5 and PS6? I don't see it. Right?
Yeah, I thought that the description of the percentage of players who chose high frame rate versus high fidelity, that was part of that PS5 Pro announcement, that was telling in a number of different ways. Like, primarily my takeaway was they're watching that.
Well, what was the takeaway? What was the takeaway?
that I think what the takeaway was it that most people want high frame rate. I forget.
Over fidelity. Yeah.
Over fidelity. But yeah, it was just interesting to me to see that was a little A/B test going on that they could use then to inform their next generation of hardware development. And I think probably there were a bunch of A/B tests going on, and like adding the super resolution, AI upscaling stuff was probably also informed by something like that, right?
Yeah. Well, that's smart. I mean, because sometimes, companies will develop stuff they think is going to be amazing. And then it turns out, well, consumers really didn't care about that. So, why did you do that? Right. So
I know, but you know how it is. It's all those like, does the consumer want a faster horse or a car? Well, they're going to want a faster horse because why would they want a car?
Yes.
They had a horse.
Well, I think another really interesting piece of information that popped up about PlayStation and its user base is a slide that Matthew Ball went ahead and posted to LinkedIn. 90% of PlayStation MAUs play single-player offline titles. 60% of the total platform time is single-player offline titles and at a stable share of market.
Yeah.
Right? That's super interesting.
That was part of a story he did also. Was that the Roblox story, right?
I was just looking at this one extraction piece that he'd posted, and I went, "Oh my goodness!"
I'm curious what the demographic is of that.
Yes.
Is it us? Is it our age group?
Yeah.
That don't want to be in Fortnite getting slaughtered by 15-year-olds.
What was interesting to me, what was interesting to me about Matthew Ball's, recent essays was like when he was pointing out the difference between Roblox and PlayStation, right? And that he noted that Roblox's 79.5 million daily active users is 2 times as big as Steam and 3 times as big as the PlayStation audience.
Jesus.
Right? And yet the behavior is so different. Like, Roblox is all online, and Sony is so very focused on single player. And those Sony players spend enormously more money than the Roblox players on average. And so
grown-ups versus 10-year-olds, right?
Yeah. So Roblox has the numbers of 300 million people coming every month to come in, but a lot of them are kids and they're not spending tons of money, right? And so, interesting. And this is one thing that was interesting to me too, because Roblox had their Roblox developers conference last weekend at Friday. I went on Friday and listened to all the announcements, and one of the interesting things was that they kind of were going after the console market, right? And so they announced that they would give larger royalty percentages for paid games, right? And so like if you had a $10 game or $25 game or a $50 game, at the $50 level, they give 70% of the royalties coming in to the developer in that case, and that's.
Can you imagine a $50 game though in Roblox? I heard this in my first reaction. I said that to my son.
That's part of the problem, is that they have no $50 games, right? Nobody wants to launch a paid game on Roblox because the model that everybody embraces is free to play, and people buy stuff in the stores or cosmetics and things like that. But I think what they're trying to do is like they're looking at their growth rate and they're going like, we want to grow, we want to be the world's biggest platform for games,
right?
But we have taken all of the low-hanging fruit in the free-to-play market, right? And so what's left to go after? Well, let's go after the console games and get some of those. And so why can't we get Electronic Arts to go publish a game on Roblox? Well, if we give them 70% of the royalties, like we're making it so similar to the console business that they could take a game and make it a paid game on Roblox, right? And so so that feels like that's one of the sort of attack vectors that Roblox has for growing.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are a lot more considerations that Electronic Arts will take into account before porting Madden over to Roblox.
Not to mention the extra cost, because they still are having to cut Roblox.
The other thing that I heard though was like the likes of Dentsu were showing up with a bunch of brands, right? And like Sega released a game on Roblox, and it stirred up demand for the console games that they had, and that game on Roblox got more than 1 billion plays already.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's a strategy to reach players in a generation that are not starting on the consoles. Like they're starting as youngsters on Roblox now, right? And so like how do advertisers reach these people except through Roblox? Because that's where they are. There's like this whole generation of people that are starting out with phones and Roblox, or maybe Roblox on phones, right? And they're not starting out with game consoles at home.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were just exchanging some messages in the chat here with Monica Madrid. Hey, Monica. And she...
now we get an expert to come in.
Yes, and she also said, hey, my kids love to spend money on Roblox. But she was like, age makes the difference. It does make the difference, but it's also... the models that you can use to monetize an audience are just very different on a Roblox versus, selling a product at retail and having them jump in for all the right reasons, right? Protective sort of laws and not, exploitative laws, those types of things, right? Super important. But using Roblox as a way to promote a principal product feels like a really good right direction, right? For companies to explore. It reminds me of, I forget the name of the game. There was a console version of it, and then our friends over at Digital Eclipse made this DS version of the same game. And the DS version of the game completely outsold the principal console version of the game. So in some sense that backfired a little bit for the publisher. But yeah, I mean, you have to go to where the audience is and figure out how to speak to them correctly in a genuine way and get your message out there.
One more interesting example of a business here on Roblox was Voldex. So they're one of the companies that makes branded games or their own games on top of Roblox, and so they bought this already popular game called Universe Football on Roblox, and it's just a 6 versus 6 football game on Roblox. But it got so popular that Vodex bought this game, and then they went to the NFL, and the NFL said, yes, you can have a license. And so now it is called NFL Universe Football on Roblox, and it already is a hit game. It already has a bunch of users. Now it's got NFL branding on it, right? And so their bet is that this is going to expand demand for that game further.
Right. And it'll end up on console someday.
Yeah.
That's what EA has to worry about.
That's right.
This is why EA might come into Roblox. That, the threats.
Yeah, okay. So, Dean, to your point, this is something that I think companies like an EA, if anyone from EA is listening, this is the perfect opportunity to go and look at your entire massive back catalog of IP that you have done nothing with for 25 years. Start dusting off some of those. Yeah. Yes. Like the fact that Alice had a skull as the knot in the bow on her back, like those sorts of things. Also, those kids and the mask playing the creepy toy piano music in the library, that just completely unnerved me. But go back even further, look all the way back to when they were doing the pinball construction set. Imagine having a Roblox-based pinball construction set from EA inside of the place where kids are making their own tables to share. Like, there's so many things that you can do.
That's awesome.
Right? And think about the way you can speak to an audience and quickly test to see whether or not there is an avenue for you, right? With these properties, I think it would be awesome, right? It becomes a prototyping platform, right? So many cool things that you can do here.
One more big news item here to mention that we haven't gotten to yet. In fact, I think Susan started this podcast. Was it a year ago? Because of this.
Because of Unity, we won. Dean, we won.
That is exactly
Unity's runtime fee.
That is exactly.
I think we claim this as a victory in our name.
So
That is exactly. I'm so glad we waited.
Where do we leave with that?
That is why we waited. I'm actually going to go ahead and pop that up here. So the way this whole thing even started on the Friday was Susan going, you know, we need to have a conversation about this, and started to
Let's
do
talk
this.
about unity, like an intervention.
You are just a groundbreaker. So 2K games all the way to leading the charge
Taking
around
on Unity.
discussions. So I just popped up the GamesBeat article on this. Let's talk about what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fully canceled the runtime fee, which they came up with a year ago, which was based on how many times your game was downloaded, and they were going to use that as a way to calculate how much money you owed Unity for the game engine. And so what this introduced was a completely unpredictable sort of budget item and cost for game companies, because they wouldn't know until like maybe a year after their game launched how much they owed Unity for the privilege of using the Unity game engine. So Matthew, anyway, John Riccatello, was the CEO when this happened. After it blew up, and there was a huge developer revolt over it, Riccatello resigned. They hired Matthew Bromberg as the new CEO in May. He was the COO of Zynga in the past, and he started evaluating all of the feedback that they had. They had already scaled back, the runtime fee to something much lower and a bit more acceptable, and that quelled the rebellion. But there were, lots of game companies that were evaluating which engine do we move to, because we can't trust Unity anymore. And so he heard this, and then he canceled the runtime fee entirely. They're going back to a price increase that's more traditional, of an 8% bump next year, 2025, for Unity Pro, and then a 25% increase for Unity Enterprise, which are $25 million companies and up. So there's still price increase, but it's predictable, and it's much easier to calculate. And
I think they also
for the
increased
new
the threshold for the free version. Am I right?
Yeah, doubled from
Yeah,
100K
from
to
100,000 to 200,000 in revenue before you have to start paying them.
Yeah.
And it's no coincidence they're doing this ahead of their Unity, event that is coming up next.
Yeah, this is called. They called it the Cummings price.
launching.
They called it the Cummings pricing structure, because they said, okay.
They should have, right? I would
See?
have loved to get some. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
I would've been too
Unity
cool.
6 is launching, next week.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality is that Unity, for most of its existence, has not been profitable, right? And so it's not sympathizing with the company. It's the fact that in order to continue making a tool that so many people rely upon, they have to make money. The way they went about it was just completely misaligned with their user base, right? And the sensitivities of the market. So one of the discussions that had popped up, since this happened was, oh, well, yeah, the enterprise fees are going to go up. Yeah, but enterprise fees are typically locked type of platforms. They typically don't upgrade to every new version of it. These are longer term sort of plays. And we think about enterprise stuff. It's not game enterprise. We think about robotics and automotive and those sorts of things. And so I think, speaking just as somebody from in the industry, is it's super smart. Like, go ahead and make sure that the people you rely upon most to drive innovation, demand for new services, promote the engine, right, create that volume of activity, you have to make sure that you are in alignment with their models, right? And the pressures that they have existing in an art form and a media space that is under increasing pressure all the time. Going after, looking to raise those rates on the other side that has a longer tail sort of, or a fixed type of income for very specific types of solutions feels right to me, right? I should say, I understand why they're taking that approach. So good on them for listening to the community and to listening to voices here. In the article on GamesBeat, They said, we're really excited about rededicating ourselves to be great partners and getting back to our core mission. And what we universally heard from customers is that they really want Unity to be strong and to be able to invest, but they want us to approach them as partners. They want simple, predictable pricing, and that's great. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know,
I did have a
Agree with
quote
all of
from
that. Yeah.
a CEO, Christian Lovestedt from Midjuan, and he said that they had started to the process of selecting another game engine. But he said, if this decision stands, I see no reason to stop using Unity. That was an interesting piece of feedback there.
Yeah, Lucian Parsons, also shout out to Lucian there, said that they make all their money, from ads, and that has to change, right? With the changes that happen in the mobile ecosystem about how you can monetize advertising, it affected everybody, not just Unity, it affected every industry that advertises through mobile. So they have to find a new path forward, right? So I can't fault the company for wanting to figure out how they can make money so they can continue delivering an important tool and set of services right for the industry.
They could also make a game like Fortnite and make all their money that way.
I agree. I have always wanted to see Unity start to invest in content.
Yeah.
Epic does it. Why doesn't Unity have a store? Why doesn't Unity,
Unity had that sort of religious notion of let's not compete with our customers thing, and you can get into trouble with things like, oh, we're going to use this feature first, and we're have the best game, and we're holding back from our customers.
Sure.
My argument to that would be Sony does it and gets away with it. Microsoft does it, gets away with it. Nintendo does it, gets away with it. Steam does it and gets away with it. And Epic does it and gets away with it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, it's funny, you bring up Epic and Fortnite, right? It's I remember when Fortnite really blew up, and I was congratulating, a friend over there, and they were like, yeah, it only took us, 7.5 years of development work and everything, and then to find a model that became profitable, right? So yes, it would be great if they could have a game like that as well, but there's no assurances that putting that time and resource into doing it is, would pay off for them. I mean, think about where Unity started from a failed game, right? Being produced by the company. And they went, well, our game was terrible, but the tools are pretty awesome. Like, maybe we should make those available to people,
Yeah. Well, there's Epic and Unreal. I wonder if we're ever going to see an Unreal game again.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. And then Barry Dorff, who also just popped in there, said, yeah, Supersonic Games are making good puzzle games, but they're not Fortnite. It's like, yeah.
What have we? Because I came in late. Did we talk about the crazy Annapurna thing?
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Oh, did I miss it?
Yeah. But
do you have your own take on it? Or?
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to know what's going on. I'd love to know who. Clearly, someone had to have been backing this, right? Would be my completely non-knowledgeable insight on this, right? But I'm not sure who. I was speculating with Middleton a bit about this earlier. We were like, maybe it's something like Griffin, but would they really want to piss off Hollywood because it's Peter Levin? So that didn't.
Right.
So I don't know, but it does. I mentioned on LinkedIn, like there was a time in the early Rockstar days when I was there that there was this mass exodus that was a lot like this. Like Warner Brothers was going to fund. People caught wind and they were all fired. Yeah. So yeah, and I know that Don posted about Bungie. What happened there?
I mean, I do think the basic conflict is between movie studio that maybe wants AAA and then indie game developer publishers who really believe in the indie mission, and they want to stay with that mission, and they're willing to leave the company to pursue.
And they had nothing to do with their film, right? So you're saying it was like they wanted them to start making like blockbuster movie games, and they just wanted to make the cool shit.
I don't know. Like, the weird thing is that they don't make blockbuster movies. They make indie movies, right? They make Zero Dark 30, and they make Her, and they make American Hustle, right? And they don't make that, like the fellow sibling company. They don't make.
I was gonna say it's more the brother, right? Who does this? Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what
video game out of American Hustle.
Oh my!
happens. I mean,
I'm very
I don't
curious.
think
It
it's
feels
over.
like
Yeah.
right. There has to have been something lined up. I have a hard time
And
believing they would
as
have all
far
worked
as
out.
like as far as somebody else stepping in now, it's like this is a great team that has this awesome track record at indie games.
Yeah.
They're all
Yeah.
25 of them are available. Can we start up a
Yes.
new publisher? Somebody's thinking that now. It's like either the venture capitalists or somebody else is just going to step in and
100%.
say, you couldn't get the money from Annapurna, so we're going to give you the money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something
I was
new.
thinking Valve earlier today. There's my hot take of who should take it over. What do you think?
Did somebody just mention Unity too?
If games listening, yeah. Oh shit, of course, you're right. Unity should do this. That's an even better idea.
Yeah.
Yes,
There
we're
it
available for consulting.
There's still money chasing. Yeah, I mean, there's still money chasing the industry. Like having just come back from Saudi Arabia and Dubai, there's money there that they're very rapidly spending.
Savvy West.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, I'm typing. You all continue going.
I think we're almost at time here. So
we are almost at time, and so we have to wrap up with what we are playing. And I'm going to volunteer to go first because I have control of the soundboard. And so I'm playing a few things. I'm playing Arcade Full of Cats. Has anyone heard of this?
I feel like I should have.
I stumbled across, I believe it was a game that was given away by either Epic with their weekly games, or it may have been Amazon games. So if you are a subscriber to Amazon Prime, go download free games. Go ahead and download the Epic store and get free games every week from Epic. I don't know why people aren't just reflexively doing that. But basically, it's a hidden picture game of these beautiful depictions of like an arcade from 1980, and you have to find all the cats that are hidden in the line art. And it's great.
This sounds like JD Vance's worst nightmare.
Oh, yes. And we went ahead and just did that. Yes, we just did that. So, yes, exactly. Yes, this is the one that will scare him back to where he came. So, also, I'm playing the newest VR game from Tigertron called Starwave. It's awesome. It's awesome. I was fortunate to have been in the beta and saw a couple of suggestions get included in the game. And James Milkey and Sam Kennedy, two industry vets. This is the second game out of their studio, Tigertron. And it's just awesome. Absolutely, really incredible. If you have an Oculus headset, just go pick it up. It not only because it's an amazing game, but also to support an awesome independent developer like Tigertron. And then the last thing I'm playing is Trackcraft for the Quest 3, and it is an AR racing game where if you imagine if you're a little kid with a bunch of Matchbox cars or Hot Wheel cars and tracks, it is the most insane, greatest Hot Wheel setup you could ever possibly have, where you can place the objects in your own environment and then race little, basically Matchbox cars through the environment. It's insane. I'm having so much fun with it. So yeah, definitely those are my three big ones. How about you, Susan? What are you playing?
This is embarrassing. Lee got us to reinstall World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Which we haven't.
Yay!
Oh my God, it's like the oldies channel.
I don't know. When was the last time I played it? Like 10 years ago? For some reason, he got this itch to reinstall it because they have a new expansion out. So we've, after many, many years, God, that game has changed. We've reinstalled it at our level 70 immediate upgrade. That was weird. And have been playing some WoW, which I never thought I would say again in my life. I'm embarrassed. I think I need help.
Okay.
I think I'm too into Blizzard stuff. Like, cause we're also, I'm looking forward to the Diablo update, which apparently is going to fix the game and make it the game it should have been. So that's exciting too. I'm sure that's
already did that.
No, there's another one. This is going to change it all again and fix Diablo, turn it into I think they're even adding like things from 3, like the auction house back and stuff that people wanted. Yeah, big changes to that too. So yeah, sorry.
No, nothing to be sorry about. That's awesome.
feel like I should. I'm way too
Yeah.
old to be playing an MMO again.
No, you're not. No, you are not. You stop that.
I have a fairly equally boring one, which is I played a lot of the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 beta, multiplayer.
Oh
beta.
yeah.
So I played for 5 hours and 42 minutes. I played 35 matches. I got 781 eliminations. And so my kill death ratio is above 1, which is good. It's 1.17.
Nice.
Ooh.
Nice.
And the not so great figure is I have about 8% accuracy on my shots.
That's okay.
Just fire a lot of shots.
Yeah, exactly. You got a machine gun, you're good. Sniper rifle for you.
But have I told you guys that Lanyon taught himself to play drums this summer on Rock Band? Did we have this discussion?
I love that.
I think you had
and I were talking
mentioned
about
it,
that.
but we didn't hear any
To
further.
the point that kid can now play expert drums at 100%.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. I'm so embarrassed. I can't even play on easy on the drums. It's so hard. I have to like turn off the foot pedal. I'm crap. So we bought him a drum set for his birthday.
Very
because
cool.
He already plays trumpet, so now he's becoming a drummer.
Well, before Mark jumps into
So
his,
that's wild.
well, since you talked about rhythm, and before Mark jumps into what he's been playing on Rewind today at 3 p.m., I'm going back and looking at the Dreamcast because it is its 25th anniversary. And this is my beautiful custom modded purple case Dreamcast with my optical drive emulator in there. So I have all of my games in here. And it turns out that I really, really suck at Space Channel 5. Really suck. So if you want to watch me fail over and over at an awesome rhythm game, join me on Rewind on AWS for Games channel on YouTube and Twitch today at 3 Eastern.
I'm very impressed you can make those systems still work.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. No, I have 3D printed mount for these Silent Noctura fans in here. 12-volt rail mod on the power supply. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
My downfall is always like mismatching the chords and not finding out where I put that old machine.
Well, here's an old machine one for you. This is the visual memory unit, how it looks. But then here's one that has been so yellowed that the chroma keying is. This is so. Imagine just how yellow or close to green this one must look for chroma keying to basically wipe it out. So anyway, yeah, Dreamcast today at 3. I can't wait. Mark, what are you playing, buddy?
Well, I'm playing Astrobot, of course.
Yeah.
Astrobot's amazing. But
Is it amazing?
An anniversary, it is.
Yeah. Incredible.
I love it. But I can only play it for 25 minutes at a time because it's so happy and cheery and sugary that I like fill up with my. It's like playing Peggle. Just like there, I'll come back later.
That's amazing.
But the other anniversary, since we're talking about anniversaries, so this week is the 10th anniversary of the one and only White House Game Jam.
Yay!
Wow.
10 years. But if you didn't know about the Game Jam we held in the White House 10 years ago, there's a really amazing video of it up on YouTube that the folks at Red Storm made, and check it out.
The sad part is the only there.
That's
I know
right.
it is sad that it's the only one. That we had a contemplation about trying to do something for the 10-year, but because we're close to the election, that didn't really make
Yeah.
sense. So.
Yeah.
But there's still people in government still building games. The folks at the Wilson Center just recently won some awards for their plastic pollution games. So you never know. We'll keep pushing.
25 games, I think, in 48 hours. And covered everything from botany to the solar system. And you had folks there from Rovio. You had Graham Devine there, right, doing some of that work. But my favorite thing to come out of it is the picture of you holding the portal gun on the White House grounds.
Well, I still have my White House glasses that you and MB got me. So I will have a toast tonight to the 10 years.
Yeah, and Lucian just said, wow, it was awesome. He still has the sticker on his laptop.
Yeah, I have some pictures of him from there. It was a great time. Who knows? Maybe we'll be able to do it again.
Oh, my gosh. Well, this was so much fun. As it always is. And Susan, I'm so glad you were able to join us today. Now, coming up for quite a number of these episodes, I need to talk to my co-hosts here. We're going to be moving to an audio-only format for a number of these because, as it turns out, I'm going to be doing some pretty extensive traveling. And going away. So it's literally like on the next few Fridays that I'm just not here in the studio. So we're going to make sure that we can still keep the conversation going, and I'll give you some more information on what is driving that at a later date. But we're still going to make sure that we have this conversation every week because it's super important, and we love being able to have this engagement. So so I want to thank my co-hosts, of course, Dean Takahashi, Susan Cummings, and Mark Delora. Yay! And that wraps up this week's Boss Rush. Thanks, everybody, for showing up and hanging out.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, gang.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Or you'll hear us next week. There we go. How about even better?
Bye.
All right. Take care.